Good afternoon. This is Media Center Ukraine, Odesa. We continue to provide you with operative information of the situation in the south of Ukraine. Our current guest is Oleksandr Tolokonnikov, a spokesperson of the Kherson Regional Military Administration, who will share with us updates in the city of Kherson and in Kherson Oblast. Good afternoon. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to heroes. Can you share with us information about the security and humanitarian situation in Kherson Oblast? The last 24 hours have seen around 31 attacks with 308 munitions, projectiles, artillery, tanks, and Kherson was attacked 6 times for the last 24 hours. Suvorovsky and Ostriv districts. Luckily, there are no injured. Yesterday, there were 2 injured women who were under attack at 10 a.m. in the village on the bank in the front of Novakakhovka and Kochkarivka village. In the evening, 62-year-old woman was injured and referred to the hospital. Yesterday, 1 person was killed. That was a man in Stanislav who tried to help his father-in-law to repair a roof that was destroyed during last attacks. The person was 48 years, and an element of the projectile damaged his heart. Borislav was also attacked. Russians continue to attack not only those who are alive, but who are dead. They attacked the local cemetery with more than 80 projectiles. Kozatsk was attacked again. Unfortunately, a 62-year-old woman was killed who was near her house, and she was killed. A year, 1 hour ago, the village of Mikhailovka was under massive attack. The local school was destroyed, as well as the building of the local council. Unfortunately, no people were injured or killed. Can you tell us about the success of counter-battery fight of the Ukrainian armed forces? Can they reach the different launching system, multiple launch rocket systems, and artillery? They use aviation bombs that they launch from the distance of 70 kilometers for their planes not to be reached by our air defense system. There are also hotspots. The systems constantly shift for our forces not to attack them. But all the time we receive information from our people on the left bank about success of our armed forces, that our counter-battery fight is successful, leading to the great number of killed. They continue to turn local kindergartens and hospitals in military hospitals. Of course, this deprives civilians there of healthcare services. But they take equipment from the hospitals that are still there to treat their wounded servicemen. As a result of our counter-battery fight, they use planes to launch a controlled aviation bomb. If I'm not mistaken, Borislav is under constant attack. The day before yesterday, Su-35 was shot down, who, as I understand, was involved in those bombardments. Can you share us any details about that plane or about other successes of Ukrainian forces in the air? The success of our armed forces, including in the air, are informed by the operative command South and our airborne forces. We can only thank them and to give them a round of applause because the results are significant when it comes not only to defense of our territory but also to the counter offense. And now I would like to have several questions related to the activities of the regional administration. The first question about the recovery of the city of Kherson and Kherson Oblast. And can you also share some details about the Sowing campaign? Is it possible to have such campaign in general, taking into consideration military risks? First of all, I would like to thank the Office of the President and our authorities for developing and presenting new recovery plans. In the Kherson region, there are around 40 settlements out of 288 that have been destroyed for almost 99%, including Posad Pokrovsky, Potemkino, Sakharivka. These settlements are covered by the state program that has been initiated by the President of Ukraine. As the Prime Minister mentioned, we should build better from the scratch, to construct facilities which are better than we used to have. So the terms of reference have been developed, as well as the design and project to rebuild those settlements from scratch. There is also a program that envisages the compensation of 200,000 hryvnias to those people who have their houses ruined or damaged. The information is collected, the relevant certificates and acts are collected for people to be able to get those funds. As for the Sowing campaign, our armed forces, the state emergency service, the pyrotechnic engineers have demined around 40,000 hectares of lands on the right bank, including 34,000 of agricultural lands. Around 150,000 hectares that generally can be considered as those that are safe for sowing. And people have already started sowing campaign that includes sunflower, vegetables, grains, cereals, etc. Thank you. And to the question that we always ask, it is related to the evacuation of people from Kherson. Is evacuation ongoing? Do people leave Kherson, or do they decide to stay there because of the security reasons? It depends on the frequency of shelling. If the frequency increases, people leave the city around 100 to 150 people per day, use the services of the evacuation, and these services are provided free of charge by the relevant authorities and the Ministry of Temporarily Occupied Territories. People are provided with the accommodation and the local social protection services. And the people have around 3,000 children have already received those services. But people, they don't want to leave their homeland, their houses. We try to persuade them to leave, at least those who have children. As for elderly people, it is very hard to persuade them because they say that this is their land, that they waited for more than 8 months for the Ukrainian forces to be back there, and they don't want to leave now because they wanted to rebuild everything. They want to live in their homes. where they have lived already for 50, 60 years, and we can understand them. And the last question to you, Oleksandr. What is the situation now with mobile shelters? 4 or 5 times the volunteers asked me to inform about the journalist about the establishment of mobile shelters in Kherson. Can you tell us how many such shelters are there now in these cities, and how many more do you plan to install? Because this is quite an effective protection when it comes to artillery shelling. Yes, I can only agree with you that when it comes to constant shelling that takes place in Kherson, shelters are very important. Every day, local authorities install at least one mobile shelter per day. Volunteers support us. The carriage company Nova Poshta has recently brought one more shelter from volunteers. As for the right bank, we plan to install around 150 shelters, and the work is ongoing there. We visited Velika Alexandrivka, for example, and there it is planned to install such shelters near schools that have no bomb shelters for children to be able to continue their studies. And if there is an alert, children would be able to hide in such mobile bomb shelter. These shelters are also important for people who live, say, in the central districts of such villages. Such shelters are really very needed. We continue repair, and the armed forces of Ukraine support us when it comes to repair of the bomb shelters that had not been used before. Together with Alexander Probudin, the head of the military administration, we have inspected 4 such bomb shelters. Now they have beds, kitchen, generators. I think that now in Kherson we have the best situation when it comes to bomb shelters compared to other Ukrainian cities. If I understand you right, in Kherson there have been installed around 30 mobile shelters, including those provided by volunteer and businesses and the local authorities. Around 30 shelters. Some of them I have seen only today. They are now delivered to the installment place. So this week you plan to have up to 30, and generally you plan for 60 for the whole city this week. Thank you very much for being with us, Oleksandr. Stay safe. We will invite you in the future to our broadcast, and have a good luck. Thank you. That was the briefing of the spokesperson of the Kherson Military Regional Administration. This is our last briefing for today. Please stay tuned.